This is lecture 4, part 1, the Arab world. It's kind of hard to explain the Arab world and call it the Arab world. It has so many other names. Arabs are a group of people that come from Saudi Arabia. That's why it's called Saudi Arabia. I've heard it called the Middle East, the Near East, North Africa. We'll sort all this other stuff out. The region is mainly Muslim. It is a very dry region, a lot of deserts. It is also very oil rich. We think of this region, the Middle East, North Africa, as being full of terrorists, and not really so much, though. And the region as a whole speaks Arabic, but their Arabic is a little different, and they might speak another language also. Their Arabic in some places is used only for religious services, like old Catholic services that used to use Latin back in the day. Same kind of setup here. Like they may speak something else as well as Arabic. To define the region, we look at the Middle East. The Middle East is right over here. Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Kuwait, Iraq, Iran. That's the Middle East. The Near East, Israel, Lebanon, Syria, because it was all in relation to like Greece and Italy is why it was called this. The Maghreb is this northern Africa region right through here. The Levant is another region for this place right here, the Israel. The Fertile Crescent is like Egypt, Israel, up through Syria and Iraq and Kuwait. That's another term you may hear. It's hard to define it. I like to call it North Africa and Southwest Asia, because that's technically what it is. This is Southwestern Asia is where this is, and this is North Africa. You could call it the Muslim world if you want to, but Indonesia is Muslim and Bangladesh is Muslim, and they're in Southeastern Asia, not Southwestern Asia. And also not everyone in this region is Muslim. So it's kind of hard to clump all of this together as being the Muslim world. Physiographic features, we have two large mountain ranges that run through Turkey, the Anatolian Plateau, and run through, this is the Shiraz and the Zagreb Mountains, which run through Iran. Also you have the Atlas Mountains, which run through parts of Morocco and Mauritania. Inside of those are two huge deserts. The Arabian Desert, which runs through parts of Syria, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, and through the Arabian Peninsula, and the other one is the Saharan Desert, which constitutes much of northern Africa. The mountains are in the east and the north, and there's little farming, more of it's herding more than anything. Because it's so dry, you see nothing really grows there, so it's hard to be a farmer and to raise food. So more people who are in agriculture in this region are herders, and they move crops. They move animals from place to place looking for places to eat. Like this guy right here, herding goats in, I want to say Algeria, perhaps Morocco, northern Africa, but you can see he's just herding goats and they're just looking for stuff to eat, moving along, trying to find other places to get stuff. One of the major issues physically in the region is desertification. Desertification. That is the expanding or the growing of deserts. The problem is people try to raise crops to farm, and they expand out so far trying to raise as many crops as possible that they get along the edge of the desert. And when they plow up the fields, one year it doesn't rain very well, and the field turns to dust. And that dust then blows because it's so dry there. And just causes more of an expanding desert. The few trees that are maybe somewhere, or bushes or shrubs, are cut down to use as firewood or something else. So because of that, the desert just continually expands further and further, like the Sahara is continually expanding. But that is desertification, the expansion of deserts. Another term I want you to know is the term arable land, and it's the amount of suitable land that is used for farming. Here in the United States, we have a lot of suitable land that is available for farming. You could plant crops most anywhere in the U.S., and they'll grow. Some crops will, at least some sort of crop. But in this region, because it's so brutally dry, they're limited as to where they can grow crops. You see this map here. You see that in the United States, 10 to 14% of our land is arable. That means we can farm on it. As opposed to, say, this region, mostly in that 0 to 4%. Not a whole lot of available land to farm. An oasis is a place in a desert where groundwater seeps up, comes up, and forms these nice oases. Places where trees grow. You can grow crops there if you want to. But these are sources of water, and so herders who move across the desert, or travelers who moved across the desert years ago, knew where all the oases were so they could stop along the way to get more water. Rivers of note. Most of the rivers here are exotic rivers, which means they're rivers that run through a desert environment. An exotic river is a river that you typically would not expect to run through that environment. If you look at the Mississippi River, it rains a decent amount, in places like Vicksburg or Memphis or New Orleans, so it's understandable to have a river running through that region. But here, we don't have a whole lot of rainfall, but there are rivers that run through this because further downstream they do get rain, and the rivers flow down through these areas. So rivers like the Nile, the Tigris, and the Euphrates are exotic rivers, but they're also cradles of civilization. The earliest known civilizations in the world were founded along these major rivers. Water is another huge issue. The places where water is most dire in red here, and you can see that pretty much the entire region we're discussing here is short on water, as opposed to the United States or Canada or Russia. In cultural geography, one of the most important points is religion. And there are three major religions of this realm, or three major religions started in this realm. The first of which is Christianity, which starts with Adam and Eve, goes down through Abraham, further on down to Moses, to King David, which is in the Old Testament, and then Jesus comes along as the Son of God in the New Testament. Their holy book is the Bible. Further along in time, they went through the Crusades, which was an attempt to retake the Holy Land for Christians. Different than that is Judaism. Judaism also features Abraham and Moses and King David, and their holy book is the Torah. They're still waiting on their Messiah, their political leader man, who's supposed to come and reclaim the power for the Jewish people. These are the chosen people of God. They refer to God as Yahweh. After Jerusalem fell, not too long after the death of Christ, a lot of Jews were spread out throughout the world because of the Roman Empire. And so Judaism spread to different places, particularly throughout Europe, after 74 AD. Now, there are some Jews who do believe that Jesus is Christ, but they also hold on to their Judaistic beliefs, called Messianic Jews. Finally, we have Islam. And Islam splits at Abraham. The same Abraham that the Jews and the Christians both believe in, Abraham also believes in, or Islam also believes in him. But they hold to his first son, Ishmael, who was a son of Abraham and maidservant. His descendant was Muhammad, who was a prophet of God, or Allah, as they call him. After his life, Muhammad's life, Islam split into two sections, much like Christianity has two major sections. You have Protestantism and Catholicism. In Islam, or the Muslim faith, you have Sunni and Shiite, which is spelled Shiite, Shia. There's several different ways to spell it because it's kind of hard to translate directly from English to Arabic. Sharia law is a law that some Muslims hold to, and it's a very strict law where women have to wear head coverings. Um, they can't eat certain types of food, especially pork, but Jews also hold to that. Um, if you are caught cheating, you can if your husband catches a wife cheating, he can kill her. Or a daughter is caught disobeying, she can be killed also. That's part of Sharia law. There's some very tense conflicts between Sharia law and Western law in places like Germany, where there's a large number of Muslims that live in Germany. The three holy cities of Islam are Mecca, Medina, and Jerusalem. Yes, the same Jerusalem of Christianity and Judaism. And not only in this region is Islam big, but also in Bangladesh and Indonesia.